Well, some of you know that this weekend I was away. We were down at my parents' house celebrating Nina's 3rd birthday. We had a whole celebration. There's all kinds of stuff, and Amy, asked Nina several weeks ago, "What kind of party do you want?" And she decided we were having a Frozen party. We've been on Frozen for a while now. I thought we would get over it by now, but we haven't, and I just need to let it go, I guess. I'm hilarious. If you've noticed, my dad jokes have improved a lot in the last few years. Well, of course, so we had this party, we had it planned, the gifts were on point, and as is the case, Amy decided to make a cake for the party, and I know some of you for potlucks have requested things from her, so you know how good her baking is, and Nina decided she wanted a chocolate cake with white icing. Chocolate cake, white icing. Amy accomplished it well. She has pictures of it. It was delicious. There is none left over. I'm sorry. And we had little snowflakes, little candy melt snowflakes on there. We do still have some of those, but anyway. It was wonderful. It was delicious, the whole party, everything was great. And I'm sure even just me mentioning that we had chocolate cake with white icing, it was like a buttercream icing, it was very good. Some of you are already thinking about it and thinking, when's our next potluck? So we can get some of that. And so me mentioning that, of course, makes us want it. But then I wonder if, instead of me saying we had chocolate cake, if instead I said, Nina requested that we have flour, sugar, eggs, baking powder, baking chocolate, coffee, and a little bit of cream cheese, if that sounds quite as appetizing as me saying we had chocolate cake with white icing. I imagine not, that some of you are thinking, oh yeah, maybe the baking chocolate and the sugar would be okay, and maybe even the cream cheese, but just eating a cup or 3 of flour, eating some raw eggs, that does not sound very appealing at all. And so we come to this thing where in baking, as in several other things, baking, cooking, we come to this truth that the sum is worth more than its parts. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And so when we bake or cook, we take these ingredients and we mix them together, we bake them, we put them under heat, there's chemical reactions. And what comes out of the oven or off the stove is more than what we put in a lot of ways. It's at least tastier. And this is true also of several things. Our families are more than the sum of their parts. Yes, all these individuals come together, but the kind of character, the dynamic of a family, it's not just one bit, or if you were to just take each person individually, it doesn't quite add up. There's something more going on. Or we could take a look at crafting or construction projects. Yes, we have these raw materials, but we shape them in such a way that the end product is more than just the parts. Right? If you were to knit or crochet a blanket out of a spool or a hunk of yarn, put it on your hat, that would be very warm, or a blanket around your shoulders, that would be great. But if you were to take that same amount of yarn before it was knit and just put it on your head, or just take the string and wrap it around your chest, it really wouldn't accomplish the same purpose. We take these things, we work them, and what comes out is somehow different and more than the sum of the parts. And this is true also with our spiritual lives, that often we start with a set of parts and they come together and the sum is great, or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And in fact, when God's involved, it becomes even greater than that. We saw this today in our gospel. Jesus withdraws to a deserted place. We don't get the context this year, but he had just heard that his cousin and fellow minister, John the Baptist, had died, had been beheaded by King Herod. And so Jesus withdraws to mourn, perhaps, To get out of Dodge so the same thing doesn't happen to him? Also, perhaps? Matthew doesn't say. He just says that he withdrew. And so he goes by boat across the Sea of Galilee, but his reputation is such that the crowds know where he's going, and they run around the sea to get there first. So either he had bad winds, or it wasn't that long of a trip, or the crowds ran, I don't know. But when Jesus comes ashore, there's already a great crowd of people there wanting to hear him, to have their sick healed. And upon seeing them, he has great compassion on them, and so, indeed, heals their sick. But as the day goes on and evening draws near, the disciples, who are ever practical on these matters, they start being concerned about who's going to feed these people. They don't say right then, but at the end of the story we hear that there were 5,000 men and then also women and children. So however many of their brought families or whatnot, you could maybe estimate 10 or 15,000 people out in this kind of wilderness place. And so the disciples want Jesus to get the people out of here. Send them into the towns nearby. Let them buy food. Right? They're going to starve out here. Jesus, however, says, no, you give them something to eat. They don't need to leave. You give them something. The disciples, of course, are rather incredulous at this. We don't have food for 10 or 15,000 people. We have 5 loaves and 2 fish. That's all we've got, Jesus. But even so, with what little they had, Jesus said, bring them here to me. The disciples then do what Jesus said and give him the 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus in turn offers this up to God, blesses it, breaks it, gives it to the disciples, who then turn and give it to the crowds. And Matthew says that all ate and were filled. And not only that, there were 12 baskets full left over. Now, and when you think basket, don't think like little Longaberger basket or whatever. Think like work basket where you are out in the fields putting wheat in or something like that. My mom has a lot of Longaberger baskets, and we were at my parents' house this weekend, so it was on my mind. In the hands of Christ, what was offered in obedience, the 5 loaves became enough that each loaf fed 1,000 men and their families. With God, when we offer to him in obedience what he has already given us, he then works in it and shapes it and gives it back to us as something more than what we gave, something where the whole is much greater than the sum of its parts. Paul says in other places that God is able to do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine. And so God, like when we are baking or crafting or constructing things, works in the raw materials that he has given and creates something greater. And what is more, because he is God, what he does is not bound by the same sorts of scarcity and materiality that we are. When we bake something, you can take the measurement of all your ingredients, and you can take the measurement of the final bit, the weight of it, and it's about the same. You bake it and it loses water, so it's going to lose some weight and so forth. But you can account for that, right? There's nothing lost, nothing gained. Same with constructing things. You knit a cap out of yarn. The yarn weighs the same before and after. God, however, miraculously is not bound by those, because he is the one who created the material that we are made of. And so then he is able, as in our gospel story today, to miraculously provide beyond the scarcity that was given to him. When we incline our ear, as Isaiah says, when we listen to God, when we obey his word, when we offer to him what he asks of us. He takes it and works in it, and he makes it more than what we offer. He makes it greater than the sum of its parts, and greater by far, not just of some sort of shaping into a utility, but of an abundance. When we offer our time to God, he makes that time greater or more significant or more poignant. When we offer our talent, he works in that skill to make the skill better than you could imagine, or something beyond even what we begin with. Nearly every Sunday I laugh at the fact that I'm up here giving a sermon week after week, because when I was younger, this was not anything that I imagined to do. In 5th grade, I refused to give a 2-minute speech because I didn't want to be up in front of people talking, and I took a 0 on the grade instead of standing there and read 2 little 3.5-inch, 3x5-inch note cards. And yet I offer to God what I have or don't have, and he works in it such that he is the one proclaiming the gospel through me. We offer to God our treasure, our things, our wealth, and he can multiply the gifts in unexpected ways. Sometimes I think that the easiest thing for God to give is money. It's almost as if he has sources that just flow in as needs come up. But when we offer it to him, or even what we do today in the Eucharist, we offer bread and wine. We offer it to him in prayer, and when we receive it back, it is more than just bread and wine, but rather the very body and blood of Christ, his life given to us, that we might be made into his life. And beyond just bread and wine, we come to the altar to offer our very lives, offer again ourselves. And so he takes our lives and shapes them and gives them back to us, not as our life only, but as his life, as the life of his Son, through his Spirit dwelling in us, that we might walk in his ways and find ourselves doing the things that Christ would do if he were in our shoes. So our call today then is to listen, to incline our ear, to obey when Christ says, "Give it to me. Bring it here. Let me have it and work in it." God is indeed calling you to give something. All of our worship is a sacrifice of some kind. He is asking us to give of our time, of ourselves, not so that he can take it and have it and hoard it. He himself needs not any of this. Rather, he takes what we offer. He works in it. He brings his own life to it and returns it to us, that we might then share it, not just with ourselves, but with the body and with the world. And then we come back once more to God and say again and again, "Thank you. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to God." Amen.